The little holiday apartment we're staying in has got a short walk down this rather nice little lane to access to a little cove that hardly anybody goes to. Let's have a look. It goes to the coastal path and a place called Woody Bay. Now Woody Bay is where we're going this morning. Always close the gate. Right, Eva, you'll pull me over if I don't let you off here. Okay. Quite a steep little track. A little bit treacherous, I would say, actually. So I've let the dog off the lead, or else she'll just pull me off my feet. She's got twice as many legs as I have, so she's fine. Okay, and then we have to hop over this stile. And then across this field. Oh, Eva's found a friend. Eva! And then we walk down this little channel here. And there is Woody Bay. Now we have an even more hazardous set of steps to get down to this bay. Fortunately there's a wooden staircase at the bottom that's quite well maintained. So I'm afraid the camera's going to go off because I need hands to balance. But we'll see you again when I get to the bottom. Okay, so we are at the top of the wooden staircase and the tide is fully out. So this is Woody Bay and it's a rock pool paradise. It's a very stony beach, so not really suitable for sunbathing and sand castles, but actually there's some really interesting stuff here, so let's go and have a look at what we can find on the foreshore. So down at the bottom of the steps we have to navigate these limestone boulders, and this is proper ankle breaker territory here, so I'm going to take this really nice and carefully. These limestone boulders do have the occasional fossil in them, but I haven't seen anything very striking or interesting just yet. And then we get onto the beach, which is these very smooth, regular, rounded pebbles, which have obviously been beaten by the waves. And of course the waves are the very reason that this bay exists. The beating of the waves, they've found a little way in to this limestone cliff, and they've carved all of this out and made this bay. Right, I'm going to go down onto the rocks and we're going to see what we can find. Well, this is interesting for a start because this looks like somebody scratched a design on this rock, but I don't believe that's a person that's done that. I think that's probably a mollusk, probably a periwinkle, has actually grazed the algae in that spirograph type pattern and then is probably taking shelter somewhere underneath. Right, what else can we see? So, limpets, lots and lots of limpets on the back side of the rock, protected from the surf. Limpets, we tend to think of them as immobile creatures, but they're actually a kind of snail, and so they will wander all over these rocks when they're underwater and then go back to their little parking place and stop there while it's low tide. Those gelatinous blobs down there, those are sea anemones, and they just look like blobs now, but when the tide comes in and covers them, they will open out with all their little tentacles. So, what else? So we'll wander over to that. There's a really large rock pool over there, and then there's an inlet there which is still connected to the sea. So we're going to wander over there Eva, you just be careful of your little legs, okay? But this is really rock pool paradise. You know, if you're a person that likes fishing around in rock pools to catch invertebrates and small fish, there's plenty of that here. In fact, I just saw a very large shrimp go underneath that rock. I'm not going to attempt to uncover it. You can always see things zipping around when you approach rock pools. Little fish, little shrimps, crabs sometimes, those sorts of things. Okay, so we're down nearly at the water's edge now, and it starts to get really a bit treacherous because the rocks are covered in weed and you've got to watch your foot in here. Eva, don't drink the sea. Eva, do not drink the sea. But we'll just try a little bit further because I want to have a look in this deep inlet here and see if we can see anything interesting. Lots and lots of seaweed of various different varieties. Now I think today we're going to pick some seaweed and we will take it home and we'll make actual crispy fried seaweed. Not like the stuff you get with your Chinese takeaway, because that's usually fried cabbage. We're going to actually fry some seaweed today. Eva, just be careful, please. Right, camera off I think for a moment while I figure out what to do next. Okay, so I think the seaweed I'm going to collect today is this green stuff here, which is Enteromorpha intestinalis, which means it's called floating gutweed, but actually the Latin name means intestine-like intestines. Enteromorpha means intestine shape. Intestinalis also means intestine shape. They really wanted to hammer that name home, even though, to be honest, it's just like a wavy grass. But never mind. Right, I'm going to gather some of this. I always have plastic bags in my wallet, as you may know if you've been watching my previous videos. So I'll need 2 hands for this. I'm going to gather up a bag of this seaweed, and I'm going to try and avoid getting gravel and anything else like that. So that's all I've got. There's only 2 of us staying here, plus the dog, so I don't need a massive pile of this stuff. That's all I've collected. I'll take that back to the cottage and we'll see what we can do with it. So we're going to leave Woody Bay now and go back up to the cottage for some breakfast. So quite a climb ahead of us. Just before we go back up, let's just have a look at a couple of the other things we've got around here that are edible. We've got, this is rock samphire, strong tasting carrot flavoured plant, very succulent leaves, and was made into pickles and things in olden times. Very popular, people used to risk their life picking this stuff. Fallen out of popularity in modern times. I guess we've got other things to pickle these days. And down here we've got sea beet, not a brilliant specimen, but further along there I can see better specimens of sea beet, so we might have a go at some of that later in the week. Okay, so we're working with quite limited resources here because we're in this little holiday cottage. I've had my seaweed sitting in a bag of water, just rinsing. It doesn't look very promising, I've got to say, but it's seaweed. You know, I think it's going to be okay. So I'm just going to give this a couple of rinses to get all the sand and grit off it, if there is any, and to give any little, yeah, I'll show you in the bottom of the bag in a minute. There are some little shrimpy invertebrates that have escaped from the seaweed. Now, I've no particular aversion to eating shrimps anyway, so I'm not very worried about what might be clinging to these things. It's going to be edible, whatever it is. And when it's fried, it's just going to be crunchy. But anyway, let's give this a rinse properly, and then we'll see where we got to. Now, I can afford to be selective here because I did get rather more than I need. So I'm just going to pick out the nicer looking strands, if that's actually a meaningful description here. Okay, so having rinsed that seaweed, I'm going to give it a good squeeze because I need to try to get as much of the actual adhering moisture out of it as possible, because I'm going to deep fry it, and that means, well, moisture hitting hot fat, generally not brilliant idea. Okay, now this would be easier if I was doing this at home. We are working with limited facilities here. So I've got a halogen hob here, which hopefully will get nice and hot. I've got some kitchen paper there on a plate ready to receive the fried seaweed, and I want a good amount of vegetable oil in the pan to fry it. We are essentially deep frying this, yeah, so I've got to get that oil nice and hot. Okay, so here we go. Okay, now I just need to wait until it's finished all of its spitting, because that means all of the moisture will have gone. That's made a lovely mess. Okay, let's go for that. I think that's probably crispy. It's more or less stopped spitting now. So we'll get that out onto the paper there. And I think we'll probably try a lid next time. Okay, so let's see what we ended up with. It is definitely crispy, and we know it's seaweed. Let's have a little taste of it as it is at the moment. Definite taste of the sea. More so I think than the crispy seaweed you get at Chinese takeaway, which is of course cabbage. It's a little bit oily, so I think what I'll do is I'll put a piece of kitchen paper on top, and we'll blot some of that fat off of it. It's just a little bit difficult to get it completely oil free because it's such a finely divided material. It's absorbing a lot of the fat. Surprisingly, even though this came out of the sea, it is in need of a little bit of seasoning. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of salt and a tiny little sprinkle of black pepper, I think. Let's try it now it's seasoned. Really tasty. So there we go. That's how to make crispy fried seaweed. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again soon.